I had always pictured the end of my marriage unfolding slowly, painfully, dragged out over years filled with resentment and failed counseling sessions, maybe capped off by one final explosive argument that would signal the quiet end. But instead, it ended in an instant, with her wearing a smirk that I'll never forget. That evening, I came home from work completely drained. The day had been grueling, endless meetings, exhausted clients, and all I wanted was to sink into the couch for a moment of peace before dinner. But the second I stepped inside, I sensed that something wasn't right. She was there on the couch, sitting perfectly still, no television playing, no music in the background, just silence. It felt like she'd been waiting for this exact moment, rehearsing every word. "Hey," I said carefully, placing my keys on the counter. "Everything all right?" She didn't respond immediately. Instead, she studied me with an unreadable expression that made my stomach knot. Something was about to drop. And then she spoke. "I'm pregnant." For a moment, I couldn't process the words. We talked about having children, sure, but it wasn't something we were actively pursuing. I was about to respond, still trying to find the right words, when she added, with unsettling ease, like she was mentioning the weather, "But it's not yours." The air was sucked out of the room. I froze, eyes fixed on her, waiting for the punchline, some awkward joke or sarcastic jab. Nothing. Her gaze never wavered. She remained calm, watching, waiting for what? I wasn't sure. Maybe for me to fall apart. But I didn't. I stood still, silent, my mind numb, buzzing with disbelief. Then she continued. "I cheated." Her tone was flat, emotionless, as if she were reading off a grocery list. I forced myself to inhale, to stay grounded. "With who?" I asked, my voice low and dangerously composed. She gave a nonchalant shrug. "Does it really matter?" "Yes," I replied firmly. "It matters." After a pause, she tilted her head and sighed. "It was my ex." Hearing those words hit me like a blow to the chest. A slow burn of anger crept in, but I didn't let it show. I kept quiet. She rolled her shoulders, seeming relieved. "It's been happening for a while now. And to be honest, I'm tired of pretending. I want a divorce." She said it like she was discarding something outdated, like our entire relationship had outlived its usefulness. Still, I didn't speak. I let her words settle into the deepest parts of me, their weight heavy and cold. Then came that smirk again, condescending, smug. "Honestly, it's for the best. I've met someone else. Someone I actually see a future with." There it was. Not only was she leaving, she believed she was upgrading. She even laughed, trying to soften the blow, like we were just talking about moving apartments or switching cars. "I know this sucks, but we're adults, right? We can handle this maturely." I swallowed hard, my voice even. "You're really certain this is what you want?" Her smile widened. "Absolutely." And then came the final insult. "Oh, and you'll still need to pay alimony." Her words struck like a sledgehammer. I blinked, sure I had misunderstood. "Come again." She waved a hand like it was no big deal. "I gave up my career for this marriage, Will. I was home for years while you grew your business. It's only fair." Fair. She had betrayed me, carried another man's child, and now she expected me to financially support her new life. I clenched my fists so tight, my nails bit into my skin. I wanted to scream, to break something. Instead, I managed a small, cold smile. "I get it," I said quietly. "But just to be sure, let's get a paternity test." She actually laughed. "Seriously, Will? You think I'm lying?" She rolled her eyes with a scoff. "Fine. Whatever helps you sleep at night." She thought I was delusional, that I couldn't accept the truth. She had no clue what I had planned. I walked into court still clinging to a sliver of hope. I didn't expect a total win, but I believed there had to be some justice. I had concrete proof of the infidelity, of the child not being mine, of her already living with someone else. Yet, as I sat at the plaintiff's table and watched her across from me, something clicked. She wasn't anxious in the slightest. In fact, she looked bored, as if she already knew exactly how things would play out. The judge entered the room, a gray-haired man who probably had seen every kind of marital collapse imaginable. He barely glanced in my direction before turning his attention to her attorney, and that's when I realized I was in trouble. Her lawyer stood, polished and confident, dressed in a sleek suit that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage. He had the kind of voice that could make absurdity sound reasonable. "Your Honor, my client was a dedicated spouse for 5 years," he began, his voice calm and persuasive. She stepped away from her professional ambitions to support her husband's career. She managed their household, took care of everything behind the scenes, and made sacrifice after sacrifice. Now that their marriage had come to an end, she was left without any income, no financial footing, and seemingly no path to start over. The irony of it nearly made me laugh. No path to start over? She wasn't some abandoned soul in desperate need of help. She had chosen someone else, another man, long before the papers were signed. She hadn't been left behind. She had already taken the next step, emotionally and physically, long before she told me she wanted a divorce. But none of that seemed to matter now. Her attorney? He was sharp, too sharp. Every statement he made was crafted with precision, each phrase calculated to paint her as the self-sacrificing spouse who had given everything up for my benefit, only to be cast aside once she had outlived her usefulness. It was a masterful distortion of the truth. Listening to him, even I almost believed it. "We request that the court award spousal support," he said with fluid confidence, "to allow her a transition into an independent life without undue hardship." My jaw tightened involuntarily. Undue hardship? This was the same woman who had been unfaithful, who was now expecting a child with someone else, and who had walked out on our marriage. And yet, here she was, seated across from me like a wronged innocent, expertly portraying herself as the victim. The audacity was almost impressive. Finally, my lawyer, Mr. Randall, rose from his seat. He was a straightforward man, not one to indulge in theatrics or waste time. But the slight, almost imperceptible way he adjusted his tie revealed that he already sensed the uphill climb we faced. "Your Honor, allow me to be direct," Randall began, his voice steady and sure. "My client is not denying responsibility. He is, however, contesting the necessity of long-term financial support for a woman who is pregnant by another man and clearly moved on." The judge's brow lifted subtly. For just an instant, there was a flicker of something, curiosity, perhaps even a trace of doubt, but it disappeared quickly. With a small wave of his hand, he encouraged Randall to proceed. "We have concrete documentation of the affair," Randall said, placing a set of files before the bench. "Evidence confirming the child is not my client's and proof that she's living with her new partner." He presented DNA results, photographs, and a trail of text messages. And for the first time throughout this ordeal, my ex-wife faltered. The smug confidence that had radiated from her began to crack. Her posture shifted, just slightly. That smirk she had worn like a crown started to fade, but she still didn't look concerned. Her lawyer was prepared. "Your Honor," he said in that same smooth tone, "I'd like to remind the court that we reside in a no-fault divorce state." And just like that, I knew we were beaten. The judge exhaled deeply and leaned back, finally focusing on me for the first time during the proceedings. "Mr. Daniels," he said, his voice calm but definitive, "while the court recognizes the infidelity, state law does not factor in marital misconduct when considering spousal support." I swallowed hard, my entire body tense. But before I could respond, he raised his hand to halt me. "What we must take into account," he continued, "is financial necessity." Beneath the table, my fist clenched. "Your former spouse was financially reliant on you throughout the marriage. She currently has no employment and limited financial assets. To leave her without support as she works to regain her footing would be unjust." I nearly laughed aloud. Regain her footing? She had already settled quite comfortably into someone else's life. But the judge was not finished. "Given the duration of the marriage and the financial imbalance between you," he said, "the court is awarding monthly spousal support." I barely registered the figures that followed. My mind was clouded with disbelief. Across the room, she turned a glance at me, and then came the smirk, slow, confident. She crossed one leg over the other with deliberate ease, tapping her polished nails against the table as though this had all been just a routine appointment, a slight inconvenience. Like she had claimed victory. After the decision was finalized, we exited the courtroom in silence. My thoughts were spinning. Then she let out an exaggerated sigh and stretched her arms. "That was exhausting," she muttered. I stayed silent. "For you, I mean. Not for me." I tightened my jaw, refusing to respond. She pulled out her phone and, without hesitation, dialed a number. I didn't need to hear the name. I already knew who it was. "Hey, babe," she purred. "It's done. The divorce is official." Yup, I'm getting alimony." Then she giggled, a soft, cutting laugh, as she looked over at me. "Told you he wouldn't push back." That was the tipping point. That was the exact moment everything shifted for me. She believed it was finished. She couldn't see what was coming next. That was the tipping point. That was the exact moment everything shifted for me. She believed it was finished. She couldn't see what was coming next. She thought she had triumphed, that I would walk away beaten and defeated, bound to fund the life she had chosen with the man she betrayed me for. She believed I'd be crushed, humiliated even, as I paid month after month for the so-called privilege of being betrayed. She imagined herself riding off into a blissful new chapter while I was left to stew in resentment. But she had miscalculated. What she didn't understand was that true revenge doesn't stem from rage. It's crafted from patience. It's a game of strategy, and I had mapped out every move. I didn't lose my temper. I didn't confront her with shouting or anger when she strutted out of the courtroom, a smirk painted across her face like she had just claimed a grand prize. I stayed silent even when she casually messaged me, reminding me about the upcoming alimony payment. "No hard feelings, right?" she wrote, trying to sugarcoat betrayal with civility. "Hope we can be civil," she added, as if decency could erase what she had done. I remember tightening my jaw until it felt like my teeth would shatter, but I kept my phone in my pocket. I didn't give her the satisfaction of a reaction. Anger is expected, and men who act on predictable impulses don't win battles. I wanted her to believe I was broken, so I did exactly what she hoped for. I sent that first alimony payment without a fuss, without delay, just like the picture-perfect ex-husband. And then I waited. Her downfall would come from the very thing she flaunted the most, her faith. She wasn't just a believer. She was a symbol in her church community. A woman who preached about fidelity, about the sanctity of marriage, about leading a home with spiritual conviction. She led retreats, gave talks, built an image around morality and righteousness. That image was her weak spot. The courts couldn't penalize her for being unfaithful or manipulative. But her church? That was another story. I didn't need to erupt or drag our personal chaos into the public eye. Instead, I exposed her quietly, carefully, and with evidence no one could deny. On a quiet Sunday, I walked into her church, but not through the front doors where she welcomed people with rehearsed warmth. I entered through the administrative wing, the quiet space where appearances were irrelevant and decisions were made behind closed doors. In my hand was a simple manila envelope, addressed to the pastor and the elders. The receptionist, an elderly woman with gentle eyes and hair like polished silver, looked up and greeted me warmly. "Good morning, young man. How can I help you?" I placed the envelope on the desk. "This is for the pastor." Her eyes lingered on it, curiosity flashing across her expression. "Would you like me to let him know who it's from?" I met her gaze, firm and calm. "No need. He'll understand once he reads it." She hesitated for a breath, then nodded and gently set the envelope aside. Inside that envelope was a quiet storm. A certified DNA test confirming I was not the biological father. Screenshots of her text messages where she shamelessly confessed to the affair, complete with laughter and emojis. Documents proving she had already moved in with another man while still collecting alimony from me. And on top of it all, a letter written with precision. "Dear Pastor and Elders, as a member of this congregation, I feel it is my responsibility to share the truth. I trust that the church will handle this matter with integrity and in accordance with its values. No threats, no bitterness, just facts." I walked out without another word. No dramatic exit, no backward glance. And then I waited. It wasn't a long wait. I stared at my phone, the message glowing on the screen. Her new partner had ended things. No explanations, no effort, just gone. I almost felt a flicker of sympathy. Almost. I could imagine her in that apartment they once shared, frantically trying to reach him. Her hands shaking, breath catching in panic. The same panic I once felt when I confronted her, desperate for answers. But now, the roles were reversed. He ignored her calls. He erased her from every corner of his life, blocked her number, deleted her from social media, scrubbed their photos together. She probably sat there, endlessly refreshing her phone, waiting for a sign that it was all just a mistake. But in her heart, she knew he was gone. The man she gave up everything for, the one she claimed was her destiny, had walked away the moment things stopped being convenient. And he wasn't the only one. Her friends from church disappeared. The women who once praised her spiritual guidance and leadership, silent. The life she had carefully built on a foundation of lies collapsed in an instant. She was left with nothing. I leaned back in my chair and let out a long, quiet breath. A part of me expected to feel triumphant. Although a sense of satisfaction washed over me, what truly hit me was the overwhelming feeling of vindication. She had convinced herself she had won, believing she had me pinned, drained, and financing her new lifestyle while she flourished. But the truth was far from it. She was the one sinking fast, and I hadn't even played all my cards yet. She had scorched every bridge in her life for this new man, only to find herself stranded. I knew she couldn't hold out for long before everything fell apart. Just 2 weeks passed before she finally gave in. It was late when I first saw her name pop up on my phone screen. Just a message. I miss you. Can we talk? I didn't open it. I left it there, untouched. A few days later, another message arrived. I was foolish. I made a mistake. I never meant to hurt you. I ignored that one as well. Then came the inevitable phone call. Her name lit up my screen, a haunting reminder of the past. I hesitated, thumb hovering over the decline button, but curiosity got the better of me. I answered silently, not saying a word. On the other end, there was a pause, followed by a trembling, pitiful voice. I don't have anywhere to go, she said quietly. I lost my friends. I lost the church. She hesitated, swallowing hard. The father of my baby left me. My tone was ice cold as I finally responded. That's not my concern. She broke into sobs. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I allowed a small smile to cross my face. That's nice. I wish you the best with your new life. Then I ended the call and blocked her number without a second thought. Now, some might wonder, if I'm still paying her alimony, doesn't that mean she came out on top? Not even close. I'm wealthy. The money I send her is hardly more than a minor annoyance to me. But for her, I watched her world collapse while mine only improved. So no, I didn't lose. She did. She lost her reputation, her support system, the life she had stitched together with lies. Watching that unravel was worth far more than any check I could ever write. People often underestimate the sting of public disgrace. They think it's less damaging than losing money or status. But they're mistaken. When someone builds their identity on being admired, respected, loved, stripping that away inflicts a deeper wound. And my ex-wife, she wasn't just a churchgoer in passing. Her identity was tied to that church, woven into the fabric of the community's respect. After the truth surfaced, the church elders, the same ones who once lauded her devotion and strength, held an emergency meeting to address her behavior. They didn't just scold her, they completely dismantled her standing. But even worse were the whispers. The church issued its formal rebuke, but socially, she was annihilated. Thinking she could maintain her composure, she attended service the first Sunday after everything went public, walking in with her head up like she could weather the scandal with poise. That was a huge misstep. No one sat beside her. Conversations hushed whenever she approached. Her closest companions, the same women she once lunched with and confided in, turned their backs. She had become untouchable, a woman who had betrayed the values they clung to. She wasn't just shunned by the congregation, her own family felt the blow. Her parents, devout and highly respected, bore the brunt of her disgrace. Her father, once proud and present, couldn't even look at her during the service. His face was stone, his hands gripping his Bible so tightly that the whites of his knuckles showed. Her mother refused to answer her calls. And her younger siblings? They were too embarrassed to be seen with her. She hadn't only stained her own name, she had tainted her entire family's. As for the man she left me for, the moment her image shattered, he vanished. She reached out. He ignored her. She even showed up at his place, only to be met with a locked door. Desperate, she asked a mutual acquaintance to find out why he was avoiding her. His answer was brutally honest. I didn't sign up for all this drama. She's on her own. Just like that, he was gone. The man she gambled everything for left her in the ruins. And it didn't stop there. Her professional life took a hit too. She had been working at a private Christian school, an institution deeply intertwined with her church. Once the story spread, parents began complaining. The administration responded with a meeting, and 2 weeks later, she was dismissed. Officially, they blamed it on budget cuts. But we both knew the truth. No one wanted someone with her reputation guiding their children in matters of faith. That was her breaking point. One Sunday after church, someone quietly murmured adulteress as she passed. It pushed her over the edge. She exploded in the parking lot, shouting through tears, calling everyone hypocrites. Her voice cracked with grief as she sobbed uncontrollably. Then she rushed to her car and drove off in a fury. A week later, I received another call. It was the first time in several months. I didn't recognize the number right away, but the moment I picked up, I knew exactly who it was. Her voice no longer carried that usual edge of arrogance, the confident tone she often used when she believed she was in control. Instead, it sounded empty, drained. She murmured so softly it was almost inaudible, I don't have anywhere left to go. I remained silent. She continued, her tone fragile. My parents hardly speak to me. The church I once called home has turned its back on me. I lost my job. She paused and sniffled. I could hear the uneven rhythm of her breath, the trembling in her voice as she pushed out the next words. Barely above a whisper, he left me too. And just like that, the truth settled in. She had risked everything and ended up with nothing. This was the price she paid for her decisions. I didn't speak. I let her words linger, heavy and raw. Then the dam broke. She began to cry, deep, unfiltered sobs, releasing all the pain she had been holding in. Through her tears, she revealed it all. The murmurs behind her back, the judgmental glances, the abandonment by those she once trusted. Her father wouldn't meet her eyes, her mother ignored her calls, and her job was gone. The place of worship that once embraced her had now shut its doors. And the man for whom she had sacrificed everything had vanished as though she had never mattered. I was so foolish, she wept. I should have never done this to you. That's when I finally spoke. My tone was even, cold, without a trace of emotion. I don't care. There was silence. Then, in a tone so faint and broken it was almost lost to the air, she asked, "Does this make you happy now?" I inhaled deeply and allowed a small smile to form. Yes. I ended the call and immediately blocked her number. People often ask me, "But you're still paying alimony. Doesn't that mean she won?" Not at all. I'm wealthy. Those payments are a minor inconvenience. She, however, is completely isolated. She's become an outcast, no support from family, no connection to her faith community, unemployed, and with no prospects on the horizon. She thought she had claimed victory, but ultimately, she was the one who lost everything. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.